Welcome to the Developing Leaders Podcast because leadership isn't optional, it's the only way out of the weeds. We're fractional coaches, myself, Judy Cirullo, and my great colleague, Karen Elliott, two former clinic owners turned leadership coaches who lived with the chaos, burned out hard, and built something better.
Yes, and we've been doing this work together for years, helping business owners go from bottlenecked and burnt out to building teams that step up and lead. And this podcast is really about what it takes to develop leaders inside your business, real tools, real talk, and a little tough love to help you stop doing it all yourself. Because when you grow your leaders, you get your life back. So let's get into it. Today's topic is a good one, Judy.
Yes, burnout. It kind of is on the heels of one we talked about last month on AI and how that impacts us, not only positively, but negatively as well. So
Mhm.
we brought this into the discussion because if you're here, you want to hear about burnout. Are you really burned out? Or is it just stress or overwhelm? And what do you do with it? Or is your staff burned out? So that's where we are going to fit in this particular topic. I know
Yeah.
Karen has a great story to lead us off that really addresses personal relationships between stress, overwhelm, and burnout. Have
Mhm.
at it.
Yeah, this is interesting. And I think, I didn't know this knowledge back then. And I certainly, when I had my clinic, I had three kids. So I was CEO of home and they were in school and I was CEO of the business and I was practicing and I was trying to do all these things. And at that time, I think it was kind of like a badge of honor if you were almost burnt out. Like you had to work yourself. It used to say, work yourself to the bone. That's the only way to get ahead in this world, right? And so I just did that and I think I missed the signs or didn't wasn't able to distinguish between stress, which is good, overwhelm, which is different, and I just kept going and going. And then burnt out looked like double pneumonia. And I had to get my 60-year-old mother to come in and look after her daughter. I couldn't even walk down the hallway. So, burnout, I'm sure the universe was throwing signals and signs at me, but I wasn't picking up what it was laying down. And I kept pushing and pushing. And burnout, came in the form of a serious illness. And after that, I adjusted a bit, but would get pulled back in. And then I got shingles. So, again, your body keeps the score. You don't learn it. The universe keeps throwing you the lessons until you finally learn the lesson. And I think now there's a lot more knowledge about what is burnout. There is stress that is required and needed, and what's overwhelm, and trying to figure out the two, the three things. But I didn't have the tools, and I really didn't even have the awareness of what it was. I just thought, yes, push forward until you're flat out. And then you're like, ooh, that didn't go so well.
You
So,
bring up a really good point about as a business owner and or a person in charge of a business, it's very easy for us to say, I can't back away from this. I don't want to show weakness to my staff. I don't want them to think that I'm not working as hard as I'm expecting them to work. And
mhm.
so we end up falling into that trap of modeling that type of behavior to the point where we don't want to do it anymore. We
Yeah.
just don't want to. Yeah. And then when we see or miss the symptoms, the signs and symptoms in our staff members, because we are expecting them to
Mhm.
behave, have the work ethic that we have, then we miss it as well. So not only in
Yeah.
ourselves, but in others.
Yeah.
I was doing a workshop with one of the teams I have out of the state a couple of months ago, and it was on burnout, stress, and overwhelm, and what's the difference.
Mhm.
And this was a group of 20 people in a practice. And by the time we got through with just the simple concepts of what the differences were, I had them do a self assessment. And everyone predominantly who initially had them, I had them call themselves out initially, and they said, oh, they all said, oh yeah, we're burned out and we're stressed. So they would
Mm.
identify initially. And at the end, when they found out the differences, only one of them really fit the definition for burnout. Everyone else fell into the categories of stress or overwhelm.
Hmm.
That was, and so I think what happens is we use the term burnout as a catch-all term.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're
And
right.
yeah, what do you hear from the folks that you work with?
I still hear the phrase of feeling burnt out. I think it's just been around for so long.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's why it's important that we're talking about this to
Mm-hmm.
distinguish between and to kind of, have check-ins so that we don't get to the, so if you look at, you've got the definition of burnt out, what does it really mean?
Yes, well, it's interesting. So if we do the burnout is kind of a progression of what's happened from stress to overwhelm, then burnout. So stress is
Yeah.
temporary. It's kind of a natural response to challenges, and we get tired and we get fatigued. Chronic stress, if unmanaged, can become damaging physical and mental health. Remember, you just
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
story
Yeah.
shared that right away. Then basically overwhelmed, people are overwhelmed. It's an extension of the stress, but it's
Hmm.
temporary as well, but it can be fluctuating. So we're overwhelmed by this situation, this incident, we get overwhelmed by this project or these
Hmm.
demands, and then
Hmm.
it goes away and then it comes back again. And
Hmm.
it overwhelm can actually lead to a paralysis. So your inability to process information and move forward.
Yeah.
So it's often short lived, though. So think about the experiences or the situations that we've had, or our clients
Mhm.
have talked about. Oh, I'm working on this project or this demand by my employer. And then things change and it goes away. That's overwhelm.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
I
then,
think it's so important that people learn how to distinguish
yes,
because it's, I think stress is normal and stress can be a good thing. It can, drive us,
exactly.
it can motivate us. I think when you get the overwhelm where you get that paralysis by analysis and you just absolutely check out that you can't even function
Yes.
because you're so overwhelmed, that's another checkpoint. Okay, whoa, 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 whoa. If I don't kind of deal with this and get some of this off my plate and learn how to, not say yes to everything or delegate or some of those tools that we coach people on, I'm going to head down the the drain of burnout and then I'm not any good to anybody. Yeah.
And burnout is really the result of this chronic stress,
Yeah.
and burnout impacts the emotional, the mental, the physical, the spiritual, and it's exhaustion.
Yeah.
And what happens with burnout, true burnout, is it's prolonged stress, unmanageable pressure,
Hmm.
and it almost leads you to a sense of hopelessness.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you've shared that with me as well. And
Yeah.
you almost then when you get burned out, you feel like you need to be detached. You don't want to connect with people. You don't want to interact with people. And so, and you can't get rid of it. And
Hmm.
burnout is one of those conditions that it doesn't go away overnight,
Hmm.
and it requires awareness, as we talk about for everything.
Yeah.
But you have to make some attention to those components of your life that are affected.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oftentimes business owners think it's just the mental, the mental and the emotional, but our whole it as you mentioned
Yeah.
initially, it impacts the entire part of our being and our
Hmm.
relationships.
Hmm.
Yeah, what are you
Yeah,
hearing
it's
from the
true. And I
business
think,
owners now?
I've gone through periods of kind of going into a bit of a burnout phase where, and for me, I basically go into a cave and retract, shut down, and I don't want to talk to anybody. I just kind of go numb.
Yes.
Um, and a lot of it, as you go through different phases of your life, sometimes it's then more around making a big decision
Yes.
or making a change versus the day to day to day to day, like it was as an early clinic owner or an early, we both have children as an early parent. Like it's just the daily grind. It's relentless, and you don't need, you don't get a break as a parent, it's kind of 24/7 at times. But then as you get older, it kind of shows up differently with larger decisions, or both of us talked about now we have aging parents,
Yes. Hmm.
and being the sandwich parent, you called it, right?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
because I've got older kids and now aging parents, and now you've got that. And it's a slippery slope. And I
It
think
is.
as we get older, the tolerance becomes a bit less, maybe. I don't know.
I think that's true. I do believe it does, but also I
Yeah.
think we are faced with reality more
Hmm.
about what are the values, and that's one of the big things, with burnout too, is that we've lost a connection to our values.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so if we look at more specific causes to think about stress, which is temporary, it's like work deadlines, just like things you're talking
Yeah.
about, family obligations, financial stress, triggers both positive and negative thinking. That's stress. We have stress every single day, all of us.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
just use it, like you said, advantageously, or we push it aside, or we deal with it, or let it go. Overwhelm really goes into you get overwhelmed, your competing demands, just as you were saying. So you have all the stuff at work, you have all these things, personal lives, you have
Hmm.
community things, whatever it might be. Those are competing demands that lead to overwhelm. And in many cases, overwhelm is exacerbated by perfectionism. Who,
Yes.
as a business owner, does not have some of that characteristic?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's worsened by being disorganized.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
funny over the years, like I was very much type A perfectionist. And
Mhm.
that's, I think, what drove me to a lot of it. And now you grow as you continue to personally grow, and you let go of the perfectionism and be okay with, getting done is better than being perfect, because it's that overwhelm from perfectionism that leads you to burnout.
And if we look at the specific cause to burnout, then, it's prolonged exposure to unmanageable stress,
Yeah.
especially for caregiving and professional people.
Yes, that's so true. It's interesting because I had probably from 2012 onwards, I had a bout of shingles probably every 8 months.
Mhm.
And that continued on. And then when I exited my business in March of 2023, had gone through a divorce. There was the stress of that, running the practice with, my ex-husband, and then selling. And I have not had shingles since February 2023.
See, that is the physical signs
Yeah.
of what we're describing. And
Yeah.
if you look at, so many people ask me, Karen, then what are the differences in the symptoms between stress, overwhelm, and burnout? We
Hmm.
all get increased heart rate and headaches and tension, trouble sleeping. We have anxiety and frustration. We might have digestive issues. I can relate to every single one of those. And those are under stress symptoms.
Hmm.
But then if we shift over to overwhelm, oh, by the way, I don't have all of those anymore, but I remember when I was
Yeah.
running my business and parenting and doing all
Yeah.
the things that we've discussed. That's exactly right. But overwhelm, the symptoms you really get, you really get worsened by the disorganization. And so the symptoms of stress just are magnified. But
Hmm.
burnout symptoms, it really is that chronic fatigue. And the
Yeah.
biggest thing is detachment. You don't want to be around people. You don't like your activity. You don't have fun in the activities that you used to like.
Hmm.
You it's really the first step of depression.
Yeah. Certainly can lead to that
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
And you reduce productivity. You just don't feel like you can get anything done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's interesting. And I wonder what you think about this, because I think this is why Like I'm a very high functioning, I have high executive functioning,
Yes.
functioning person, as a lot of entrepreneurs are. They're very high functioning. You can do a lot under a lot of stress or a lot of like,
Yes.
so I think it gets masked by that high functioning ability that we have as entrepreneurs and business owners
Yes.
until boom, something snaps
Yes.
and that's it.
That is exactly right. And I think that means you're right, because even though we're aware of all those symptoms and things, oh, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to
Yeah.
keep pushing. And I think it's really important that we realize that these signs and symptoms are not signs of weakness.
No.
They're not signs that you can't stand up to staff and employees, and it you have to be able to be vulnerable and transparent and share those things with those around you. So
Mhm.
that's really one of the first steps of awareness.
Yeah.
And there are really three hallmark signs of burnout in the stages. And I think this is a really, I will put the reference in the show notes, because this is a really simple way for people to look at it. Um, but stage one of burnout is exhaustion.
Hmm.
Begins often caused by unrealistic job demands, right? Continuous high pressure expectations, probably put on ourselves, like is what you were just saying.
Yeah.
Limited resources or being afraid to delegate,
Hmm.
and really expecting those things of us. You push harder, you work longer hours, and you accomplish less.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
leads to stage two, which is then you start evolving into cynicism and detachment. So as exhaustion persists, it leads to cynicism and emotional detachment. So the job you once cared about feels draining and your enthusiasm fades. I can raise my hand to that. Yeah.
Hmm.
You just go through the motions each day to get through the day to get it done. You
Yeah.
may begin withdrawing from coworkers or feeling irritated by tasks that never used to bother you and
Hmm.
dreading the day before it even begins.
Yes.
And at that stage, we are then tapping into the emotional and mental turmoil that burnout and cynicism. So I'm sure you've seen others that you work with, and or even yourself, or where you start to become cynical about things, and you detach from the real connection with people.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
stage two of burnout. And then the final stage, stage three of burnout, is ineffectiveness and lack of accomplishment. So when burnout reaches its final stage, your confidence and sense of accomplishment diminishes. And you may feel like nothing you do makes a difference, leading to frustration, decreased motivation, and even a sense of hopelessness.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's important to remember that if the effectiveness starts with our mindset.
Hmm.
We talked about this 2 episodes ago, you know,
Yeah.
and workplace conditions can play a significant role. So can
Yeah.
you think those through these three stages and identify anyone that you've worked with that has been in or gone through any of those stages?
Oh, for sure. And what's interesting, and here's the common thing I see,
Yeah.
because I've worked with a lot of people in that, and the one common thread throughout is they have not prioritized themselves. They have not protected, as I call the asset, which is you. So if you don't, back in the day, I would try to make my personal life fit my business life until I
Yes,
crashed.
exactly. Me too.
And then I realized, no, 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 no. I've got to make my business fit me personally. Because if I don't protect myself and look after myself, my mind, my body, sleep, nutrition, all the things are free time away from the business where you are recharging your battery, not doing work, not doing emails, not thinking about it, but literally zero work at all, personal time.
Yep.
you're going to go down the path of burnout. And I think that's the common thing with everybody. It was for me, I didn't protect the asset, which was me. Thinking if I didn't work constantly and be a hamster on a wheel, the business was going to fall apart.
No, and you know what gets us into this is obviously lack of awareness, but the inability to recognize how important it is to have an infrastructure that supports the success of the people that work with us or for us.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
then we feel like we have to do it all. There's no accountability. There's an inability to delegate. And you just feel like what you're describing, that you're in this rat race. I felt like I was on a treadmill all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
beyond the morning workout.
Yeah.
And
So then if we look at Judy, so, say for the clinic owner or the business, well, I do know how to delegate. I have a team,
yeah,
but I have, dealing with this now with my staff. Well, let's look beyond of all the external personal things, the stress of the state of the world at the moment, the economy, someone's a new parent. Both parents now have to work. There's so many more added stressors and personal lives of those people that
yep,
work for
you
us.
bet. Mm-hmm.
So what do you like with the group that you just worked with of owners, or what are you seeing in that regard? Because I hear this a lot, like the level of burnout and the level of sick days and mental is just
Yes, it's
gone up. And
increasing. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah,
You know that when people, if we look at it from the employee standpoint, when employees start to call in sick days and it's regular, like on a Monday,
hmm,
you know that there is something that needs to be addressed.
yeah,
And, so from that standpoint, and that becomes a regular pattern, the owners have to be able to come forth and have that conversation with that
yeah,
employee, that allows that employee to talk from a safe space. And
hmm,
that's where we get into our crucial conversation piece. Because if you don't address it and you're, oh, I'm afraid to talk to them about it because I think they'll quit or they'll do
yeah,
this or that. But it's all in how you approach it. And you and I
hmm,
know that for
hmm,
sure. And so that's from the employee standpoint. If you talk about it from the owner standpoint, I have a particular, we ought to do a segment on succession planning, honestly,
mm,
because I'm working with this practice that has, and the owner, the senior partners had the practice for 50 years, 50.
50 years.
Yes. His
Wow.
son has been with him for 20, and it's a family run business, but they have never had a conversation on how to set up succession planning.
Hmm. Yeah,
And so they're feeling the stress and overwhelm separately, but they're father and son, they don't
yeah,
come together to talk about it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so we had our first conversation when I was there last week, because he, if you don't address those things, it impacts the morale of the team.
hmm, yes, yeah,
And so the owners have to be ready to talk transparently and share
hmm,
some vulnerability. So that's how, in this case, which is a little bit different, but not too unusual when you've got a father, son, and business, they have to come together and talk.
yeah,
And so there's stress there,
hmm,
not burnout, but stress there because
hmm,
of the fear of having a difficult conversation.
yes, pretty much, yeah.
That's pretty much
But I
what it
think
is.
it's important. I mean, this is why, again, you as a leader, as an owner, you build your people, you build your business. And part of building your people is knowing the people and then noticing a pattern that's just a little off. That's not their
Yes,
usual. Or now they're staying in their treatment room all day and not interacting.
exactly.
Noticing those things and
Yes.
and having a conversation about, I notice, are you okay? Simply, what's going on, so that you can step in and support that person before they get to the point of burnout,
Yep.
where now they're off on sick leave or they're sick or whatever, right? So I think it's really important to know your team, know your people, what's typical, what's atypical, what patterns are showing up that were not there before, and then just talk about it.
You know what this does, though? And this is, it almost sounds like we're broken records because all, all of these things come down to the fact that we have to take time to talk with our people.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make time, take time, and show the genuine interest in them, whether they're employees, whether they're contractors, whether they're
Yeah.
just part-time. It's all about having that conversation because these symptoms of burnout and these symptoms of overwhelm and stress, people often feel like they're on an island by themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just builds if there's no interaction or communication about it. So it
Mhm.
brings back to our conversation, always having those meaningful conversations with people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that it doesn't have to be an hour. I think it's those little checkpoint,
Oh
what are
my
you
God.
loving this week? What's going on? Like just those things to check in. If you start to see nothing and their energy's low, like, it's a signal. I think we need to pay attention. And I think that's a lot of ways I think it's missing. That is missing.
It is missing. And I think, one of the things that helped this team is something that you and I have talked about rolling out next year, which is the Developing Leaders Coaching Program,
Mhm.
because this business is an exact example of why you develop your leaders
Mhm.
to be able to do exactly what we're talking about, step
Mhm.
in and connect with people on a regular basis. It
Mhm.
doesn't take monthly hour meetings. It can take weekly 5 minutes. Just
Yeah.
and learning how to be aware of nonverbals
Yes.
and the energy that people exude and share back and forth. And so many people, honestly, this stuff is common sense, Karen.
Mhm. Yes, but I think the thing that's not common anymore is awareness.
That's right.
Or down in the phones, I just got to get in, do my work because I got to, and nobody's like looking
Right.
outwards and observing and just simply listening and watching
Yeah.
for things that are
Yes.
not quite on track. Yeah,
No.
behaviors.
And that's why people need to be, I don't want to call it educated, but coached on how to coach.
Hmm.
They're the people that work with them and for them,
Yeah,
because then you just empower them to be accountable, responsible, and self-directed.
yeah.
And when people are in that mode where they have control over their own work and working as these symptoms and signs of stress, overwhelm, and burnout diminish. And the
Hmm.
research is
Yes.
very, very common. And
Yeah.
the thing with burnout in the healthcare professions is it's very prevalent. People feel like they're on an island by themselves because there's no time to engage with others because of the demands.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so true.
Yeah.
You said you had a few statistics of what this research is
Yeah,
kind of showing in regards to burnout.
let me pull these up.
I think these are always interesting and shocking.
So 75% of professionals worldwide experience burnout at some point in their careers. And this is under the title of why this matters for you as a coach or us as a coach or a healthcare practitioner.
Mhm.
Burnt out employees are 63% more likely to take a sick day and 2.6 times more likely to be job hunting. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And workplace stress in US costs businesses more than 300 billion every year in absenteeism, turnover, and lost productivity.
Hmm.
So that's massive. And it's got to be the same in Canada.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's very similar. So one of the things that is part of this work that I'm doing, we talked about the early cues and the those kinds of things, but people, there are 5 power questions, and they come from this gal, Dr. Neha Sanwin. She's a physician who's done a lot of burn work, so I want to give her attribution. But she said, take a few breaths and check in with your body. Is there any
Mhm.
place, this is the first thing, is there any place that feels like it's carrying more than its share. Perhaps anywhere you might feel tightness, heaviness, constriction, or discomfort. That's one thing she asked. The second question is, in the flow of your everyday life, what feels most draining or depleting to you? How many times have we talked to our clients about that?
Yeah.
Yep. This third, where in your life do you find yourself forcing or overdoing? Doing it anyway, or even when your body or mind is asking for rest?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yep. If stress could walk into the room and introduce it, I love this question. If stress could walk into the room and introduce itself, what would it say its job is in your life?
That's a great question.
Isn't that yep.
Yeah.
And then the last one that's also really important, and we just mentioned it briefly. Where in your life are you going through the motions instead of living in sync with what you care most about?
Mm.
That's the values. Are we still aligned with our own values, or are
Yeah.
we going down the sideways track on them
Yeah. Yeah. That whole just going through the motion, I think that's a really, because you people, you hear that all the time, it's just going through the motions.
to get done? Mm-hmm.
That's all. I love those questions. Hopefully you can put them in the show notes for people to, really take and use themselves,
Yes.
but then also help use them to help the people that are in their business,
Yes.
which I think, again, it goes back to culture as well, right? And
Yes.
I call you the queen of culture because you are. Um, but the the pizza parties, the once a year birthday cards, like nice, but that is not what's going to create the culture and the connection to have your people feel like they matter. So they're
Yes.
not a statistic in the 2.6 times
Yes.
people looking elsewhere
Exactly.
because they don't feel supported or even
No.
seen,
No. How
you know?
many times have you heard them say, "Well, they got me a coffee card"?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just it's meaningless.
No, they just you. That's why it's so important. Those 5-minute
Yes.
conversations, those, yeah.
Check-ins. Yep. And it's important also that owners and leaders of teams learn how to help coach their emerging leaders. It
Hmm.
is, it's massive
Yeah.
because you can only do it yourself so long. And if you don't develop people into your business, you will continue to feel these signs and symptoms that we've talked about.
Yeah.
I've been
Especially
there.
if you're growing. And I think that was for me, it just my practice grew so fast that there wasn't enough of me to go around. I mean, I was delegating and getting rid of hats, but the capacity and the mental and emotional just expands as you get bigger and bigger and bigger. So you've got to
Yes.
create extensions of yourself by bringing on leaders and coaching them on how to coach other people.
Yes. And you know what else that brings up too? If we talk about the transformational work that we've done with our clients and that we see
Mhm.
the transformations, they don't occur overnight.
No.
And oh my gosh, especially when you're dealing with hard head business owners, because I can
Yes.
say that because I was, I was in that boat. and, and they, you look at something, it's like, oh, okay, I want that fixed yesterday.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that when we talk about these helping with these tools and tips that people have, it's not going to happen overnight. They need to learn it. They also need to practice it. They need to embody it, believe it, and put it into a step-by-step approach.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So,
Awesome.
anything else you want to talk about with regard to burnout? Any other things that you?
No, I think it's such a prevalent topic. It's, showing up everywhere in different
Yes.
ways,
Mhm.
both personal and professional. I think it's, again, protecting the asset and protecting yourself, looking for those signs. If
Yes.
I think about it, even now I'm better at it. I know where the tension shows up. I know when I need to,
Yep.
have some recovery or really look at, okay, what am I doing? Am I in alignment with my
Yes.
values,
Yeah.
who I'm surrounding myself with, the type of work I want to do? I mean, we're at the age where I'm not doing the stuff that I don't love. And if I end up there, I know what it feels like. So I get out of there as fast as I can.
Well, and even with us developing and have built our coaching business, it's easy for us to get overwhelmed with that. And
Yeah.
it's easy for us to lose the love and the joy that we get out of it. So
Yes.
we have to be, no matter what business you're in or industry, you have to be in tune with those signs and symptoms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, they will overtake you and you'll lose the joy and the love for
Yeah.
what you want to do.
Yeah, and I think that, that's why the drive to kind of know what your geniuses are, what's the things that
Yes.
really lights you up, and you're moving up the ladder to get yourself in that quadrant by delegating or deleting or, as you go, which I'm sure we'll do an episode on delegating
Oh,
because
yes, we'll need
that
to.
can be done well and not so well. But that's your whole goal is to really be in the area of the business just lights you up and you love doing and it's productive and the stuff that you're not, somebody else is really good at and they love doing. So, yeah.
Yes. And you bring up one last point for that is business owners are generally visionaries.
Hmm.
They have the vision of what they want, where they see it going. But all the other stuff that it takes for it to operate and to be operational, they don't like doing, and they're probably not good at it, and they don't need to do it. And so they have to be able to recognize that they aren't a do-it-all
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
You have to be able to pull in others and help others along to develop into that
Hmm.
position of
Hmm.
delegation. So
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, we could do a few sessions on this because
Yeah.
it's a big, huge topic, and I think burnout and overwhelm is going to be continually be prevalent in this day and
Yes.
age.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's one thing, Judy, that you want our audience and people listening to this to take away from the subject of burnout?
Yeah. You know what? I'd like them to be able to stand back and say, even though I'm using the term burnout, am I burnt out or am I just in situational overwhelm? Or do I just have a stressful time? I don't mean just because but as you said at the beginning, stress is positive. It can drive us
Hmm.
and negative. So I'd like them to be able to take away the differences between over
Hmm.
stress, overwhelm, and burnout. How about
Hmm.
you? What you're thinking?
Yeah, I'd like them to take away to, protect the asset. Start
Yes.
with your personal. What are the things that energize you? And I would
Yep.
say challenge people that you need to have a minimum and work towards, even 2, 3 days of personal time where you do no work at all. You're not reading a book about work. You're not emailing. You're not thinking. You are literally 100% doing personal things, whether it's a walk or exercise or
Yes.
going something, because that's what recharges your battery so that you can have a charged battery to then deal with the stressors and some overwhelm. But if you're in depletion mode and your battery's on, please recharge me all the time, that's when we slide into that slippery slope of potentially heading down the burnout road. So I think I'd like people to take away that and look at one day in your week. Lots of times it's a day on the weekend. And when I say no work, I mean, if you catch yourself thinking about it, stop yourself. No emailing, no nothing.
Oh, yeah. Took me years to learn that. You guys don't
It's
want to live
very
as long as
hard.
it took me.
It's very hard.
It is
Yeah.
very hard
But you
because
have to
we're
recharge.
driven.
You have to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And now the neuroscience behind that can really show what happens to our brain
Yeah.
when we don't recharge. And those are really important pieces. Explains what happens in our brain organically explains what we're feeling and seeing otherwise. So it's really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that is great. So we built, as I referenced earlier, we built the Developing Leaders Coaching Program to exactly help people navigate themselves into a better stress-free situation and develop their leaders and or people in their business to help take that over. It's
Hmm.
really important to recognize that.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think if this episode or the other episodes hit home and you want to learn more about the Developing Leaders program, book a discovery call. We'll put the link in the show notes. and then talk about what's possible for developing your leaders in your business.
That is great. Well, we will see you next month for more real talk, practical tools, and leadership that actually works. Thanks so much for listening. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.